So we've just looked at a passage that had 16 notes in one bow, and that's Bach trying to crank up the tension in the piece. And Bach's slurs are very important because in Bach's time, the stringed instrument is seen as being a contrapuntal speaking instrument rather than, as we see it nowadays, we see the violin as being a singing homophonic instrument and chords are filled in by a piano or something like that. That wasn't the case in Bach's time. And so the slurs represent the stresses and unstresses of language. In this case, the slur represents something expressive, tension building. And he goes through that tension building and then adds a chord that increases that tension, which is that dominant ninth chord, this one here. It's so full of pain. So if I play that little passage from the low G sharp with 16 notes in the bow, I save the bow as much as I can. And it is a physical pain because being able to play all those notes in one bow, you're really having to use a slow contact with the string. It has this difficulty to it without the notes cracking or making an ugly sound or losing or running out of bow. And then he releases that tension with another sequence which goes through a series of harmonies, very quick harmonies, but it starts in A minor. So we have dance. But then we're back into this place of darkness. And so we start with this tension building again, and he uses that 3-note slur again, where we melt away. And this is actually an interesting interval. I mean, it's a Neapolitan sixth, so it already has a lot of interest to it. So that Neapolitan sixth in A minor, you've got B flat, D, F. It's like the second chord, but you've flattened the tonic of it. So it's very often played over the drone, which is on the third of the chord. So the drone here is a D. So we've got this D drone, which is also increasing the intensity of this emotion that we're feeling. So we're here on this low D. Ready, go. And this is an interval which is very interesting. We went up to a B flat, that same expressive interval that we talked about earlier. So, and it resolves to a G sharp. So we've got this diminished third chord there, which really is telling us about the pain that this piece is about. So we have... There we've arrived. Now we've arrived at the dominant or A minor. And within, if you've got a bandwriter copy, there's probably a misprint here. The slur here, slur again. I think it's just a mistake. You can look at bar 22 and you can see where it goes to subdominant. He does something very similar. It's like... He slurs both sets of triplets. So I think it's worth slurring both sets of triplets here. So... So after we've arrived at the A in bar 15, that's where the dominant actually arrives. There's then a kind of a release through the next notes. So it relaxes you've got the A, and then it relaxes through this, sort of wind down. And then this chord, the way they played chords was the bass note's the most important, so we catch that on its own, and then we roll over the next notes. Ideally, what we're going to do is catch, together, single, together, single, together, single. But whatever happens, we just roll the middle chords and then end up on the top note. I tried to catch the top two together for a moment, so I once spoke to David Watkin about this, and he suggested also the movement of the bow, because we think that the bass note's the most important. So rather than the bow just going straight across, we catch, we go away, and in. I don't know whether you can see that on this bow. So I catch, go away, and then back in with the bow. So we actually just move the bow slightly as well.